She took a bullet for the millionaire Mafia boss's daughter, and he realized she was an angel. The bullet was never meant for her. It was designed to pierce the heart of a 7-year-old girl, the only child of the most dangerous man on America's East Coast. But fate sometimes rewrites the script in ways no one could ever foresee. When the red laser dot settled on the small chest of the child, Emma Rivera did not think about the consequences. She did not think about the fact that the man standing beside the little girl was Dante Moretti, a mafia boss who could erase an entire bloodline with a single nod. She only saw a child about to die. She threw herself forward, and when her blood stained the sidewalks of Manhattan red, she had no idea that she had just ignited a bloody war that would shake the entire underworld and awaken the dead heart of a devil. Prime hour at the upscale Italian restaurant La Stella Nera was a chaotic symphony of clinking cutlery, the head chef's shouted orders, and the low murmur of multi-million-dollar negotiations. For 28-year-old Emma Rivera, it was just another exhausting Friday night, her feet numb inside a pair of worn shoes she had used for 3 years, her mind counting down the 4 remaining days before she would be evicted from her damp basement apartment for missing rent for the 2nd consecutive month, knowing that after this shift, she would still have to rush to clean office buildings until 3 in the morning to earn an extra $50 to support her paralyzed younger sister, waiting at home. The atmosphere inside the restaurant suddenly thickened when a strange silence fell over the VIP section, separated by heavy crimson velvet curtains. Emma walked toward table 17, the table tucked into the darkest corner of the room, farthest from the windows and the entrance. It was occupied by a man who looked as though he had been forged from steel and ice, nearly 6 feet 3 inches tall, wearing a custom-tailored black suit worth almost as much as Emma would earn in 10 years of relentless work. Dante Moretti. Even Emma, who kept her head down and stayed far from gossip, knew his name from the frightened whispers of her co-workers. The press called him a millionaire real estate investor. The streets called him Il Diavolo, the devil. He was dangerously mesmerizing, with razor-sharp features, neatly slicked back black hair, glacial blue eyes that seemed able to pierce the soul of anyone who met his gaze, and a thin scar on his chin from a hit carried out 10 years earlier. But what made people tremble was not his appearance. It was the icy aura radiating from him, an invisible wall separating him from the rest of humanity. Yet tonight, the devil was trying to be a father. Seated across from him, curled inward on a chair far too large for her, was a thin 7-year-old girl named Gianna, dressed in a black velvet dress, clutching a sketchbook tightly to her chest and staring down at her untouched plate with hollow eyes, having not spoken a single word since her mother died 2 years ago. Emma held the cold crystal water carafe, her hands trembling slightly as she poured water into Dante's glass. His gaze followed every movement she made, making her feel as though she were being analyzed and measured inch by inch. She swallowed and forced herself to maintain a professional smile. "Would you like something to drink?" Emma lowered her voice and knelt to Gianna's eye level. The little girl's large eyes looked at her, empty, as if staring straight through her. Gianna did not answer. She only hugged her sketchbook tighter. "We'll order an appetizer and 2 pasta dishes," Dante said, his deep voice carrying an authority that could not be refused. Emma nodded and was about to stand when Gianna's hand accidentally brushed against the water glass. The crystal glass rolled off the table and shattered across the marble floor. Cold water splashed onto the child's black velvet dress. Gianna flinched, her eyes widening in fear. She looked up at her father, her entire body trembling as if bracing herself for his wrath. But before Dante could react, Emma dropped to her knees at once. "Oh, it's okay, sweetheart," she said gently, using a napkin to wipe the water from the girl's dress. "I spill water all the time, too. Just last week, I broke 3 glasses in 1 day." Emma smiled, a strangely sincere smile within that tense space. "You know, she added softly. "I have this little secret. When I spill water, I always say, 'I'm sorry, little glass. I'll be more careful next time.' That way, the glass won't be mad at me." Gianna looked at Emma, her lips trembling. In 2 years, this was the first time anyone had not scolded her, had not looked at her with pity or anxious concern. "Would you like to try saying sorry to the glass?" Emma whispered, as if sharing a secret. Dante sat frozen, his entire body rigid. Marco, standing in the corner of the room, stared as well. No one had ever dared to approach Gianna like this. No one had ever made her respond. Gianna looked at the shattered pieces, then back at Emma. Her tiny hand slowly released the sketchbook, reached out, and took Emma's hand. Warm skin, the calloused fingers of a woman who worked too hard. Yet it was the gentlest hand Gianna had touched since her mother passed away. Emma held her hand and smiled. "See? Everything is okay." Then the miracle happened. The corner of Gianna's lips lifted, slightly, almost imperceptibly. But it was a smile, the first smile in 730 days. Dante felt his throat tighten. He had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on child psychologists, pediatricians, and autism specialists. But a waitress with worn shoes and a sincere smile had done what money could not buy. Emma finished clearing the broken glass and stood up. "I'll bring your food out right away, sweetheart. Which pasta do you like? I think you'd like carbonara. It has cheese and bacon." Gianna nodded, a small nod, but it was an answer. Dinner passed in silence, but it was a different kind of silence. Gianna ate. She even looked up at Emma each time the woman refilled her water. Dante observed every interaction, his ever-calculating mind trying to analyze this woman. Who was she? Why was she approaching his daughter? And for what purpose? And why was his daughter reacting this way? When the bill arrived, Dante placed a black card on the tray, along with 5 $100 bills in cash. Emma stared at the money, her eyes widening. "A tip for good service," Dante said curtly. Emma took the bill with trembling hands. $500, enough to pay her rent, enough to buy Lily's medicine for the entire month. "Thank you," she whispered, fighting back tears. Dante stood, took Gianna's hand. The little girl turned back to look at Emma and raised her hand in a small wave. Emma waved back, her heart burning warmly. They walked toward the exit. Emma stood there holding the receipt, feeling as though her life had just changed forever. 1 minute later, she ran outside, wanting to thank them once more. That was when she saw the red laser dot. The tiny red light, no bigger than a pinhead, danced across Gianna's chest as the child stepped down the stairs outside the restaurant. Emma did not think. Instinct completely overpowered reason. "Careful! Danger!" Her scream tore through the Manhattan night. Dante spun around, his right hand lunging inside his suit jacket with the speed of a trained warrior, but he was half a second too slow. That half second was the distance between life and death. Emma hurled herself across the 3-meter gap like a fired bullet. Her worn shoes slipped on the wet sidewalk. She wrapped her arms around Gianna, dragging the child down and using her own body as a living shield. The gunshots rang out, not the loud explosions heard in movies, just short, cold pop-pop-pop-pop sounds. The first impact into Emma's back felt like being struck by a sledgehammer. There was no pain at first, only a violent force that hurled her forward. The second tore through her right shoulder. Emma felt every millimeter of the bullet ripping through skin, muscle, and nerves. Then the pain arrived, burning, as if acid were being poured over her body. Dante had already drawn his weapon. A 9mm Beretta appeared in his hand like magic. He fired 5 consecutive shots at the black Mercedes that was preparing to accelerate. The windshield shattered. The right side mirror burst off the vehicle. But the car still sped away, tires screeching on the asphalt before vanishing into the late-night traffic. "Marco, lock down the area! Find that car!" Dante roared, yet his eyes never left Emma. She lay on the sidewalk, blood pouring from her back and shoulder, soaking her white uniform red. Gianna lay beneath her, safe, without a single scratch. Emma fought to stay conscious. She looked down at the little girl and tried to smile. Are you okay?" Gianna crawled out from beneath her and knelt beside her. Her large eyes stared at the blood, then at Emma's pale face. Then she cried, her first spoken, audible cry after 730 days of silence. Don't leave me!" Gianna clutched Emma, tears streaming down her face. "Don't leave me. Please don't leave me." A voice. His daughter had finally spoken, but in the worst possible moment. Dante dropped to his knees, examining Emma's wounds with hands still stained with his enemy's blood. The bullet had passed through her shoulder, but the wound in her back was bleeding far too heavily. Her lungs, they might be punctured. "Marco, call Dr. Kim. Tell her to prepare the operating room at the private clinic immediately. If this woman dies, I will burn the entire hospital down." Dante's voice trembled, something no one had ever heard from Il Diavolo. Emma looked at Gianna, blood seeping from the corner of her lips. "Don't cry," she whispered. "Don't talk anymore." Dante tore off his suit jacket and pressed it hard against the wound in her back. "You have to live. Do you hear me? You are not allowed to die." But Emma's eyes were slowly closing. The world faded into black. The last sound she heard was Gianna's crying voice calling out, "No, please." Then there was endless darkness. The surgical lights had remained on inside the sealed operating room of the private clinic for 7 straight hours. Dante sat on a plastic chair in the hallway, elbows braced on his knees, both hands clenched tightly together. His white shirt was still stained with blood. Emma's blood. For the first time in 20 years of operation, Dante Moretti felt fear. Not the kind of fear that came from guns or assassination plots, but the absolute helplessness of knowing that money, power, everything he had built could not save a life that was fading behind those doors. Marco approached, holding a tablet. "Boss, we've got information on her." Dante looked up, his eyes rimmed red. "Emma Rivera, 28, Marco read. "Her mother died 2 years ago from liver cancer. She owes $120,000 in hospital bills, including cancer treatment for her mother and spinal surgery for her sister." Marco scrolled. "Her sister is Lily Rivera, 16, paralyzed from a car accident 3 years ago. Emma works 3 jobs, waitress at La Stella Nera during the day, office cleaner at night, and food delivery on weekends. She lives in a basement apartment in Queens and is 2 months behind on rent." Dante's hands tightened. "Continue." "Her credit record is poor due to medical debt. No bank account, cash only. A former landlord filed a sexual harassment complaint, but it was withdrawn due to lack of evidence." Marco paused. "Boss, she's completely clean. No ties to any organization. There was no reason for her to save Gianna except—" "Instinct," Dante said quietly. "She did it on instinct." The operating room doors opened. Dr. Sarah Kim stepped out, her mask and gloves still stained with blood. Her face was exhausted, but relieved. "She's out of critical danger," Dr. Kim said. "The bullet passed cleanly through her shoulder, but the second one entered her back, pierced the diaphragm, and missed her heart by 2 centimeters. We had to remove shattered rib fragments from her lung. She lost a great deal of blood." Dante stood up. "She'll live?" "She will, but she'll need at least 3 months to recover, and she's very lucky that the bullet didn't veer 2 centimeters closer." 2 hours later, Emma opened her eyes in a spotless white private hospital room. Sharp pain tore through her back and shoulder, forcing a soft groan from her lips. IV lines were inserted into her arm. A heart monitor beeped steadily beside her bed. Then she remembered. Lily. My sister! Emma tried to sit up, but the pain made her cry out. Stay still. Dante appeared at her bedside and gently pressed her shoulder down. Your sister is safe. I've sent people to take care of her. A private nurse, physical therapy, everything she needs. Emma looked at him, tears streaming down her face. I don't have any money to pay. You saved my daughter, Dante said, his voice breaking. You traded your life for hers. Yeah. I owe you everything. Gianna, Emma whispered. She spoke for the first time in 2 years. She called your name. She cried and begged you not to die. Emma smiled weakly, then her face paled. I need to go home. Lily needs me. I have to work. You can't go home, Dante said firmly. Marcus Chen, your restaurant manager, sold information to Viktor Kozlov, a Russian boss. He ordered the hit. Marcus gave them my schedule, the place where I had dinner with Gianna. Emma gasped. Marcus has been dealt with, Dante said coldly. But Viktor is still alive, and now he knows who you are. He knows you saved my daughter. If you return to that apartment within 24 hours, both you and your sister will be dead. Then, what should I do? Emma whispered desperately. Dante looked straight into her eyes. You will stay with me, you and your sister, under the protection of the Moretti family. That is the only way. Emma woke to morning sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. She looked around, not recognizing where she was. The ceiling soared high with classical plaster designs. The bed she lay on was larger than the entire basement apartment she had once rented. The sheets felt like clouds. The door opened. A middle-aged woman in a nurse's uniform entered. Good morning, Miss Rivera. I'm Nurse Helen. Mr. Moretti transferred you here after 3 days of treatment. Where am I? Emma tried to sit up, her shoulder still aching. The Moretti estate in the Hamptons, Helen replied, adjusting the IV bag. And your sister is here as well. Emma's heart pounded. Lily? Where is Lily? The room next door, fully equipped for medical care and physical therapy. Would you like to see her? 5 minutes later, Emma sat in a wheelchair pushed by Helen into the adjacent room. The room was 10 times larger than her old apartment, equipped with an electric hospital bed, breathing machines, parallel bars for rehabilitation, and large windows overlooking the endless blue sea. Lily lay on the bed reading. When she saw Emma, the book fell from her hands. Sis! Lily burst into tears, reaching out. Emma wheeled herself to the bedside and held her sister tightly. The two cried in each other's arms. Are you okay? Did they do anything to you? Emma asked. No, Lily sobbed. They're very kind. They gave me this room, good food, and a doctor checks on me every day. But you were shot. I heard about it. Emma wiped her sister's tears. I'm fine. I just need to rest. Small footsteps rushed into the room. Gianna ran in and wrapped her arms tightly around Emma's legs as she sat in the wheelchair. Miss Emma! Gianna cried, her voice trembling. I thought you died. Emma stroked the girl's hair, her heart melting. I'm here, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere. Dante stood in the doorway, watching. His face softened. For 3 days, Gianna had refused to eat or sleep, crying and asking about Miss Emma with the black hair. Gianna, let Miss Emma rest, Dante said gently. But Gianna clung tighter. I don't want to. I'm afraid she'll disappear. Emma looked at Dante, then down at the trembling child. Dante stepped inside and knelt to Emma's eye level. I have a proposal. Stay here, not as a guest, but as Gianna's companion. She needs you. You are the only person she has opened her heart to since Isabella passed away." "I don't know how to take care of a rich child," Emma whispered. "I don't need you to make her rich. I need you to make her happy." He paused. $15,000 a month. You'll have your own room. Your sister will receive the best medical care. All of your debts will be paid." Emma's mouth fell open. $15,000. She would need 2 full years of nonstop work to earn that much. She looked at Lily, lying in a clean bed, no longer suffering from lack of medicine. She looked at Gianna, clinging to her as if she were her final anchor. "Okay," Emma said softly, her voice trembling. "I'll stay." Gianna smiled, her first radiant smile. And in that moment, Emma knew this decision would change her life forever. On the first night, Emma could not sleep, not because of the pain in her shoulder, but because of the sounds coming from the basement. At 2 a.m, chaotic noises erupted. The next morning, when Emma went down for breakfast, she saw 2 unfamiliar men wiping blood off the garage floor. Marco noticed her stare and stepped over, whispering, "Don't ask. Don't look. Don't interfere. That's the rule for surviving here." Emma swallowed and nodded. She had stepped into a world where death was part of daily work. But then Gianna ran to her, wrapping her arms tightly around her. And Emma remembered why she was here. The first week passed in painful adjustment. Emma learned to avoid certain rooms at certain hours, learned not to ask when Dante came home with blood on his shirt, learned to recognize the sounds of pistols, rifles, and silenced guns. But she also learned how to make Gianna laugh. Every morning the child ran into Emma's room, climbed onto her bed, and told her about her dreams. Some were beautiful, some were not. On the 11th night, Gianna screamed. Emma rushed into the girl's room, ignoring the still healing pain in her shoulder. Gianna sat on her bed, drenched in sweat, her arms flailing wildly. My mom is drowning. I couldn't save her," she cried. Emma pulled her into her arms, rocking her gently. "It's just a dream, sweetheart, just a dream." "But my mom really died," Gianna sobbed. "My mom left me. Why did my mom leave me?" The question stabbed into Emma's heart. She thought of her own mother, who had fought with all her strength against illness and still lost. "Your mom didn't leave you. She was sick. Sometimes adults aren't strong enough to fight illness." "Did I do something wrong?" Gianna asked in a tiny voice. "No." Emma lifted the child's face. "Never think that. Your mom loved you very much. And now I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." "Do you promise?" Emma knew she shouldn't promise what she could not guarantee, but looking into Gianna's desperate eyes, she could not stop herself. "I promise." Gianna fell asleep in Emma's arms that night, and many nights after. Lily grew stronger with each passing day. Her complexion turned rosy. She was able to sit upright for longer periods with the support of the parallel bars. The physical therapist told Emma that with this treatment plan, Lily could walk with a support frame within a year. Emma cried when she heard that. When Iban deceased, as for Dante, he kept his distance. Communication happened only through Marco or brief text messages. He avoided shared dinners. He came home late and left early, as if Emma's presence were a threat. But Emma caught his gaze. When she played with Gianna in the garden, when she read to Lily, when she stood by the window, her hair drifting in the wind. He stood in the shadows, watching her with something dangerous in his eyes. And Emma watched him too. She watched his hand resting on Gianna's head. She watched his rare smile when the child told a funny story. She watched the scars on his hands, his neck, and his soul. The air between them grew heavy. By the 4th week, Emma knew. She was no longer here only for Gianna and Lily. She was staying for the man who could not bring himself to meet her eyes. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She went down to the kitchen for water at 2 in the morning. Dim lights spilled into the living room. Dante sat on the leather sofa, holding a bottle of whiskey, staring out into the dark window. "You're not sleeping?" Emma asked softly. Dante turned. His eyes were red-rimmed. Drunk? Not heavily, but enough for his walls to crumble. "I never sleep on this day." Emma stepped closer and sat on the chair across from him. "What day?" "The day Isabella died." His voice was hoarse. 2 years ago, she took an entire bottle of sleeping pills. I found her in the bathtub. Gianna was asleep in the next room. Emma held her breath. "I didn't know she was suffering that much," Dante continued, his voice trembling. "Postpartum depression. I thought she would get through it. I thought my love was enough, but it wasn't. I let her die." "It's not your fault," Emma said, moving to sit beside him. "Depression isn't something you can control. You did everything you could. I could have hired better doctors, stayed home more, could have—" "You're only human." Emma placed her hand over his. "You're not a god. You can't save everyone." Dante looked at the small hand resting on his, warm, alive. Then he bowed his head onto Emma's shoulder, the full weight of his world collapsing onto her. Emma held him, stroked his hair, and whispered, "You did well. Gianna is alive. She still has a chance to be happy. That's because of you." They sat like that until dawn. 3 days later, Gianna was playing in the garden, chasing butterflies. Emma was sitting with Lily on the porch. Gianna tripped, her knee striking the corner of a stone step. Blood spilled. "Miss Emma!" Gianna cried. Emma ran to her, scooped her up, her white blouse stained red. She rushed inside. "She needs bandages! Someone help!" Dante was coming down the stairs in his suit, heading for a meeting. He saw Emma running with Gianna in her arms. Blood, panic, the image overlapping with 4 weeks earlier. Emma holding Gianna. Blood, gunshots. He froze, his heart pounding wildly. Marco rushed over with a first aid kit. Emma laid Gianna on the kitchen counter, checking the wound. "It's just a small scrape, sweetheart. You're okay." She cleaned and bandaged it gently. Gianna stopped crying, leaning into Emma. Dante knelt beside the child. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Daddy," Gianna said. "Miss Emma saved me." Again. Emma had saved his daughter. Again. After Gianna ran back outside to play, Emma stood washing her hands in the hallway. Dante stepped forward, blocking her path. "Thank you," he said. "You don't need—" Dante kissed her, without hesitation, without permission. He cupped her face and kissed her deeply, desperately, as if she were his last breath of air. Emma froze for a second, then returned the kiss. Her hands clutched his suit jacket. The kiss was sweet and painful at once. When they finally parted, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "I shouldn't have, but you did." The alarm sirens shrieked. Red lights flashed throughout the corridors. Marco's voice burst through the loudspeakers. "Boss, the perimeter has been breached. Victor's team." Dante drew his gun and shoved Emma behind him. "Get to the bunker, now!" Emma ran up to the second floor, searching for Lily. Guards' radios crackled. 20 gunmen! They have heavy weapons!" Marco rushed over, carrying a crying Gianna. "Bunker, now, all 3 of you!" Emma pushed Lily's wheelchair into the private elevator, leading down to the basement. The bunker was a steel-reinforced room with 30-centimeter-thick walls, stocked with enough food and oxygen for a week. "Sis, you're coming with me, right?" Lily sobbed. "You go in. Marco will protect you and Gianna." Emma kissed her sister's forehead. "No, you have to come." Lily clutched her shirt. Emma gently pried her sister's fingers away. "Dante needs me." She offered no further explanation. She only knew that leaving that man to fight alone was something she could not do. "Miss Rivera," the boss ordered. "I know." Emma turned to Marco. "Lock the door. Don't open it until Dante says it's safe." She slammed the steel door shut before Marco could protest. Gunfire erupted outside. The first-floor windows shattered. Emma ran down and ducked behind a wall. Dante and 5 men were firing back from behind overturned sofas. "Why are you still here?" Dante roared when he saw her. "Because you're here!" There was no time to argue. A smoke grenade flew in, flooding the living room with thick white haze. A voice boomed from an external loudspeaker. Russian. "Moretti, hand over Emma Rivera and her sister, and we will let you live." Dante fired a burst toward the door. "Come and take them if you dare." Then another voice cut in. A woman's voice. Familiar. "Dante, this is Sarah. Listen to me." Emma froze. Dr. Sarah Kim, the doctor who had saved her life? Dante stiffened as well. "Sarah?" "I've been working for Victor from the start," Dr. Kim said over the speaker. "I gave him your security system's weaknesses. Isabella was my friend, Dante, and you let her die. You deserve to lose everything, just like I lost her." Dante's grip tightened around his gun, his teeth grinding. "Victor only wants Emma and Lily," Sarah continued. "Hand them over, and Gianna will live. Refuse, and we will burn this estate down with everyone inside." Emma looked at Dante. In his eyes she saw the war within him. Give her up to save his daughter? Or fight and risk everything? Dante looked back at her and smiled. A dangerous, unhinged smile. He spoke into the radio. "All units, activate Red Protocol. Eliminate all intruders." The war began. Emma remembered the estate schematics Dante had shown her the week before. The electrical system, the fire alarms, the emergency exits. She ran to the central control cabinet in the laundry room and tore it open. "What are you doing?" a guard demanded. "Creating an advantage." Emma scanned the switches, found the right one, and cut power to the entire East Wing, where Victor's gunmen were advancing. Darkness swallowed them. Confused shouts erupted. Dante's men, familiar with the terrain, moved through the shadows like ghosts. Gunfire, screams, bodies falling. Emma turned back toward the hallway leading to the bunker. She had to make sure Lily and Gianna were safe. But when she reached the steel door, she saw Dr. Sarah Kim standing there, holding an industrial drill, trying to break the lock. "Stop!" Emma shouted. Sarah turned, her face twisted with hatred. "You! This is all because of you. Dante never looked at anyone after Isabella, and then you showed up." "I didn't." "Shut up!" Sarah drew a pistol. "Victor promised that if I handed you over, I'd have the money to leave this country. To leave Isabella's memory behind." Emma scanned the area. No weapon, only a fire extinguisher on the wall. She waited until Sarah stepped closer, then yanked the extinguisher down and blasted white foam into Sarah's face. Sarah screamed and fired wildly. A bullet grazed Emma's thigh. Blood spilled, but she didn't stop. She smashed the extinguisher into Sarah's head. A dull crash. Sarah collapsed onto the floor. Emma sank down, clutching her wound. It hurt, but the bunker door remained intact. Upstairs, Dante faced Victor in the living room. The massive Russian man wore body armor and carried a submachine gun. "Moretti," Victor sneered, "you've gotten old." "And you're still stupid," Dante fired. Victor dodged and returned fire. They moved like deadly dancers. Bullets flew, furniture shattered. Then Victor grabbed a framed photo of Gianna from the fireplace, hurled it to the floor, and crushed it under his boot. A mistake. Dante lunged, tackling Victor to the ground with his bare hands. Their guns skidded away. Dante pummeled Victor's face, cracking the enemy's jaw, but Victor managed to draw a dagger and plunged it into Dante's side. At the same time, Dante snapped Victor's wrist, wrenched the knife free, and drove it straight into Victor's heart. Victor collapsed, lifeless. Dante raced down to the basement, searching for Emma. He found her slumped against the wall, blood flowing from her thigh, still gripping Sarah's gun, guarding the bunker door. "Emma!" She looked up and gave a weak smile. "Lily, Gianna, safe." Dante pulled her into his arms and pressed cloth against her wound. "Are you insane? You could have died." "So could you." Emma touched his cheek. "We're even." Police sirens wailed outside. Police Chief O'Brien, one of Dante's men, had arrived to clean up. Emma closed her eyes and fainted in Dante's arms. 3 days later, Emma opened her eyes in the familiar room. Afternoon sunlight filtered through the white curtains. The wound on her thigh had been neatly stitched and carefully bandaged. Dante sat on the chair beside her bed, his hair unkempt, his beard grown out, his shirt wrinkled. He had fallen asleep, still holding her hand tightly. Emma moved slightly. Dante woke instantly and sprang to his feet. "You're awake," he said hoarsely. "You slept here?" Emma asked. "For 3 days," Marco said as he entered carrying a food tray. The boss refused to leave even for a minute. Dante flushed and turned away. "You saved my daughter. For the second time, I had to make sure you were okay." Emma smiled. Her heart felt warm. A week later, when Emma was able to sit up, Dante handed her a thick folder. "All of your medical debts, $120,000, have been fully paid," he said. "David, the bastard who harassed you, has moved to Alaska and will never return to New York. Lily has been enrolled in a long-term treatment program with the top specialists in America." Emma stared at the documents, tears streaming down her face. "Why are you doing so much for me?" Dante knelt beside her bed and took her hand. "Because you belong here, with me, with Gianna, with this family. You are not just anything." Dante met her eyes. "You are the bravest woman I have ever met. You are the only person who makes my daughter smile. You are the woman who made me believe in love again. Emma, you are the light in my darkness." Emma wrapped her arms around him, sobbing. "I love you too." 1 month later, Emma was able to walk again. One afternoon, Gianna tugged her by the hand into the rose garden. Lily was already there in her wheelchair, smiling brightly. "You have to close your eyes," Gianna ordered. Emma closed her eyes and let Gianna lead her forward. When she opened them, she saw the garden decorated with white balloons, flowing ribbons and petals falling like rain. Dante stood in the center of the garden, dressed in a black suit, holding a small velvet box in his hand. He knelt. "Emma Rivera!" Dante's voice trembled. "You saved my daughter. You saved me. You taught me how to love again, how to live again. I cannot promise you a normal life. My world is dangerous, dark, but I promise to protect you with my life. I promise to love you every day until my final breath." He opened the box. A sapphire-blue diamond ring shimmered in the afternoon sunlight. "Will you build a family, a future, a real home with me?" Emma looked at Gianna's radiant smile, at Lily wiping away tears of happiness, at the man kneeling before her, who had once been a devil and was now everything. "Yes, 1,000 times yes, I will." Dante stood, slipped the ring onto her finger, and kissed her deeply. Gianna and Lily clapped and cheered, and in that moment, beneath the New York sky, a new family was born. 1 year later, the rose garden of the Moretti estate was adorned with white baby's breath and glowing candles. It was a small wedding, only 30 guests, the closest of friends. Emma stood before the mirror in the dressing room, wearing a simple yet elegant white silk wedding gown. Lily stood beside her, standing on her own legs with the support of special crutches. Tears of happiness streamed down both sisters' cheeks. "You're beautiful," Lily said, holding her sister's hand. "You are too, my maid of honor," Emma said, hugging her carefully so she wouldn't lose her balance. The sound of the organ filled the air. Emma stepped into the garden, Lily taking small steps behind her. The rows of guests turned. But Emma saw only Dante standing beneath the floral arch, wearing a gray suit, his blue eyes devoted entirely to her. Gianna ran ahead, scattering rose petals and smiling brightly. As Emma approached, she whispered loudly, "Mommy is so beautiful." That word, Mommy, nearly brought Emma to tears. Father O'Connor, the silver-haired priest who had baptized Gianna, stood before the small altar. Today, we witness the union of two souls who found each other in darkness and walked together into the light. During the vows, Dante held Emma's hand tightly, his voice steady. "Emma, I promise to protect you from every darkness, even the darkness within myself. I promise to love you every day in sickness and in health, in riches and in poverty, until my final breath." Emma smiled through tears. "Dante, I promise to be the light that leads you home, forever. I promise to love you and Gianna as my own family. I promise to stand by you through storms and sunshine. I now pronounce you husband and wife." Dante kissed Emma beneath the golden sunlight, and the garden erupted in applause. 3 months later, on a quiet weekend afternoon, the 5 of them spread a picnic blanket on the lawn behind the estate. Dante lay back, Emma resting against his shoulder. Gianna and Lily chased butterflies nearby. Marco sat eating a sandwich, smiling as he watched the girls. "Mommy," Gianna ran over, "are we going to have a baby?" Emma smiled and exchanged a glance with Dante. She placed a hand on her flat stomach where a 3-month-old life was growing. "What do you think?" Emma asked. Gianna's mouth fell open, then she squealed with joy. Lily cheered as well. Dante kissed his wife's forehead, his eyes glistening. Emma looked around at her family, a family found not by blood, but by love and sacrifice. She once thought her fate was endless suffering, but it turned out all it took was one brave moment, one decision to throw herself in front of a stranger's child, to open the door to happiness. She had found love in the place no one expected, in the heart of the man the world called a devil, but she called home.